This will be the third presentation in a series about the New Jersey Stormwater Management Rules. The goal of this presentation is to explain the design and performance standards for major developments. The design and performance standards are a set of requirements that must be met on every major development. They are intended to minimize the adverse impacts of development on stormwater quality and quantity as well as groundwater recharge. The design and performance standards apply to all disturbed areas of a development. There are certain linear development projects that are exempt from the design and performance standards of the stormwater management rules, provided that the developer meets certain criteria to minimize the effects of the development. The developments and criteria are as follows. Construction of an underground utility line, provided the disturbed area is revegetated upon completion. Construction of an above-ground utility line, provided that the existing site conditions are maintained to the maximum extent practicable, and construction of a pedestrian access, such as a sidewalk or trail, provided that it is made of a permeable material and is no more than 14 feet wide. It is also possible for certain linear projects to be granted a waiver from strict compliance with the design and performance standards, provided the project meets certain criteria. The only projects eligible are projects enlarging an existing public roadway or railroad, or the construction or enlargement of a public pedestrian access. To obtain a waiver from strict compliance, the applicant must demonstrate the following. The public need for the project cannot be met by other means. The design and performance standards have been met as much as possible through the use of non-structural and structural measures. For the applicant to meet the requirements, existing in-use structures would need to be condemned, and the applicant does not own or have rights to other areas within the same drainage area of the receiving waters where mitigation could be used to comply with the requirements that were not achievable on site. The first design and performance standard is the non-structural strategy standard. Non-structural stormwater management is an approach to development that prevents or minimizes the adverse effects of development while maintaining the natural hydrologic response of a site to stormwater. There are 9 non-structural strategies that the stormwater management rules identify as satisfying this standard. These include strategies such as reducing and disconnecting impervious coverage, maximizing the protection of natural drainage features and vegetation, and providing vegetated open channel conveyance. The non-structural performance standard is mandatory for every project, and each strategy must be incorporated into the site design of all major developments to the maximum extent practicable. The designer must utilize non-structural strategies before structural stormwater management measures to address the quantity, quality, and recharge standards of the rules, which will be discussed shortly. Once it is determined that the use of non-structural strategies have been maximized, the designer can then look to structural BMPs to satisfy the remaining requirements. A deed restriction or other department-approved restriction is required for all non-structural stormwater management measures to ensure that they are preserved and maintained. For a more in-depth discussion of the non-structural strategies, as well as examples of low-impact development calculations, please see Chapter 2 of the New Jersey Stormwater Best Management Practices Manual. For information on which BMPs provide non-structural benefits, please see Chapter 9 of the New Jersey BMP Manual, in which each BMP with a leaf icon on the title page is able to assist with certain strategies. The second design and performance standard is the groundwater recharge standard. When stormwater lands on or flows over pervious areas, some of it infiltrates into the soil. Some of the runoff that infiltrates will be removed by vegetation through the process of evapotranspiration. The runoff that infiltrates below the root zone of the vegetation enters the groundwater table. Recharging groundwater is very important for maintaining base flow into streams and other water bodies. A lack of groundwater recharge as a result of development can lead to increased flooding during wet weather and decreased surface water levels during dry weather. Also, groundwater is an important source of drinking water for wells. To satisfy the groundwater recharge standard, the designer has 2 options. Maintain the existing average annual groundwater recharge, or infiltrate the increase in runoff volume generated during the 2-year storm. Groundwater recharge is not allowed in areas of high pollutant loading, such as areas where petroleum products or pesticides are stored, or stormwater is exposed to industrial source material. For more information on meeting the groundwater recharge design and performance standard, please see Chapter 6 of the New Jersey Stormwater BMP Manual. The next design and performance standard is the water quantity standard. The water quantity standard is aimed at preventing flooding, protecting in-stream structures, and preventing other negative impacts as a result of increased flows. There are 3 different options for meeting the stormwater quantity requirement of the stormwater management rules. The first option is to ensure that at no time do the post-construction hydrographs exceed the pre-construction hydrographs for the 2, 10, and 100-year storms. The second option is to demonstrate that there is no increase in peak runoff rates from the 2, 10, and 100-year storms, and also that the increase in runoff volume leaving the site and the change in runoff timing will not increase flood damage at or downstream of the site. The designer must consider the impacts of existing land uses as well as projected land uses, assuming full development under existing zoning and land use ordinances in the drainage area. The third option is to demonstrate that the post-construction peak runoff rates for the 2, 10, and 100-year storms are reduced to 50, 75, and 80% of their respective pre-construction peaks. For more information on meeting the water quantity design and performance standard, please see Chapter 5 of the New Jersey Stormwater BMP Manual. The next design and performance standard is the water quality standard. The requirement for water quality is to reduce the post-construction total suspended solids loading leaving the site by at least 80%. The specific storm event for which this requirement applies is known as the water quality design storm, which corresponds to 1.25 inches of rainfall in 2 hours. This performance standard is only required if there is a quarter-acre increase in impervious coverage on a project that meets the criteria for a major development. In addition to total suspended solids, nutrients must also be addressed and reduced to the maximum extent feasible on all major developments, including those which do not increase impervious coverage by 1/4 acre. There are 2 very important considerations when reducing nutrients in stormwater effluent. First, strategies to reduce nutrient input, such as source control, minimizing lawns, and reducing fertilizer, are very effective at reducing the total nutrients in the effluent. Second, when selecting structural BMPs, consideration should be given to BMPs which reduce the nutrient concentration. A special water resource protection area is an area which is established to protect water quality in a water body with exceptional ecological, recreational, or water supply significance, or has exceptional fishery resources. Special water resource protection areas apply to all waters designated Category 1 and perennial or intermittent streams that drain into or upstream of the Category 1 waters within the associated HUC 14 drainage area. Along these streams, a 300-foot special water resource protection area shall be provided on each side of the waterway, measured from the top of the bank outwards, or from the center of the stream if the bank is not defined. Encroachment within this area is only allowed where previous development or disturbance has already occurred. In no case can the area be reduced to less than 150 feet from the waterway. All stormwater must be discharged outside of but may flow through a special water resource protection area and must comply with the standard for off-site stability and the standards for soil erosion and sediment control in New Jersey. If stormwater is flowing through a special water resource protection area but cannot comply with the standard for off-site stability, then stabilization measures may be placed within the special water resource protection area, provided that the following requirements are met. Stabilization measures shall not be placed within 150 feet of the waterway. All associated stormwater discharges shall achieve a 95% TSS removal rate. Temperatures shall be addressed to ensure that there will be no impact on the receiving waterway, and the applicant demonstrates that the overall condition and functional value of the special water resource protection area will be maintained to the maximum extent practicable. In addition, the applicant must meet with the department and local soil conservation district to identify necessary stabilization measures, and all encroachments must be reviewed and approved by the department. Requirements established in the Flood Hazard Area Control Act may apply to special water resource protection areas and should be considered whenever a development will affect a special water resource protection area. The final standard is the requirement for a maintenance plan for all structural and non-structural stormwater management measures incorporated into a major development. The plan must include specific preventative maintenance tasks, schedules, and cost estimates, which include estimated costs of sediment, trash, and debris removal. The name and contact information of the person or persons responsible for maintenance must also be included in the maintenance plan. If the responsible party is not a public agency, the maintenance plan and any future revisions must be recorded on the deed of record for each property on which maintenance is required. Responsibility for maintenance cannot be transferred to an individual homeowner in a development unless that homeowner owns or leases the entire development. The maintenance plan should not be overly technical and must be easily understandable to the individuals performing maintenance. For more information on maintenance plans, please see Chapter 8 of the New Jersey BMP Manual and the maintenance guidance available at www.njstormwater.org. Thank you for watching the Design and Performance Standards presentation in this series about the stormwater management rules. For more information, please watch the other videos in this series entitled Applicability, Stormwater Management Planning, and Safety Standards for Stormwater Management Basins, as well as the module Stormwater Management through the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Permit.